everyone, this is Ron from High Tech Legion, and it is a whole new line of Z87 motherboards out there, and there are plenty to choose from. And for some of us, we don't really need something that high-end, and we don't really need something that is too basic. Some want overclocking, but some just want basic functionality to be performed very well, and some also want a very good functionality, but doesn't want to break the bank. Well, maybe the Z87-Pro will fit the bill. It is essentially a part of the mainstream price range that Intel is using the Intel Z87 chipset and supports the latest socket 1150 Haswell processors from ASUS, and it is priced at $209. So with that said, we have the box right here. So let's just dig in and see what we can find inside the package. Here you have the Z87 Pro packaging, and inside, of course, you have the motherboard itself on the top component. And let's lift that up and take a look at the accessories first. Inside you get the user's guide, which is essentially a thorough manual. It's an all-English manual, so I'm assuming it's localized depending on where you buy the main board itself. You have Z87 exclusive feature user's guide. Essentially most of it is as a software and AI suite usage. Where also a little bit of that is covered in the manual as well. You have the Z87 series driver disk support. It is actually shared by the Deluxe, Expert, and the Pro version of the Z87 board from ASUS. You also have there's a case badge here somewhere inside the disk itself, and you have SLI cable. It's a shorter one. It's not a double length SLI cable. You have a front panel connectors. They're called the Q connectors for quick connects. Also has the new yellow and gold color scheme, yellow-black color scheme that ASUS has been going for with this line of Z87 boards. You have a backplate, a white backplate here that is color-coded and labeled. You have this it's a Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connector. Let me just open it up for you. That's one of the coolest things I saw this at CES. And they also have, of course, to use this, just twist it up. And you got, this also acts not just as an adapter, but it can also be turned into a client mode through the AI suite. And let me show you the connectors there. And these are actually, you see these are the connectors that you don't just pop these in, you actually screw it in. So it's a lot more secure and a lot more tougher compared to other and previous sort of LAN connectors. Let me just remove that for you can see. And actually underneath it is magnetic. If you have a surface, from metallic surface somewhere, it will cling. So even if you have something magnetic on the wall, you can just cling that into there, get the perfect angle. And you get, for standard SATA cables, you get 2 pairs of them. So that's 4 in total. One pair is latching and 1 pair is straight. And let's put all this accessory aside and take a closer look at the main board itself. Alright, so here we have the ASUS Z87 Pro motherboard completely out of packaging, and the first thing to note, of course, is that it sports the gold color theme that is being used by all of the segment boards from ASUS in the Z87 line. And starting here with the CPU, of course, we have our new socket 1150 that supports Haswell processors. And it is 1150 pins, so you will need a new processor. You cannot use your LGA1155 and LGA1156 processors. So that could be a point of concern for some people. You want to upgrade, you will need a new processor. But for those who have an older heatsink and have an LGA1155, LGA1156 heatsink, fortunately, the mounting hole is the same, exact same distance as LGA1150 and LGA1156, so you can reuse those old coolers you got. And also, looking at the power phases here, you got 12 power phases, and of course, it is ASUS, you have Digi Plus VRM, which is the first part of their 5X protection plan that they're calling. It is, of course, inherent in all their segment boards, starting again with the Digi Plus VRM. And of course, you want precise voltage control. Although in Haswell, the VRM is already in the CPU, you still require a precise voltage control coming from the main board. You want you want clean power being fed into that in that CPU, especially when you're overclocking. And just flip that here. You can see a little bit of that heatsink in the back. That these essentially, there's also heat sinks for them right at the back for the VRM area, front and back. So it not only does it provide extra support, it also provides sort of absorbs a lot of that heat coming up from there. If you look closely, that there's padding between that. So the heat does transfer to the thermal tape and into the metal strips here for to dissipate more of the heat, so you can handle a lot more. And also see the row capacitors there. Of course, these are not just any solid capacitors. These are, of course, 5K capacitors. That's 5K rated for 5,000 hours, and that's 5,000 hours under 105 degrees Celsius, meaning when it actually is running your system, it will have even longer life. It probably will outlast a lot of your components. And see here, of course, essential with cooling is the CPU connector for the fan. You have there. Now they differentiate the CPU fan header. They're all 4-pin PWMs, but the CPU fan header has the gold color and has also a different looking connector there. And the optional fan connector is directly underneath that, right beside the tip of the DIMM slot. So that's the first two fan headers. And of course, you have your 8-pin EATX 12-volt connector, power right at the very top corner with the latch facing downward. And also, let me just give you a look at the how the airflow will be, how the airflow will go through those heat sink there for the VRM area. It definitely is room there, and also there are some channels along the way, so even if you are using an air cooler, it won't get trapped in that area. And let's move on to the DRAM here. Of course, it has the standard ASUS DIMM slot. It has the single locking at the top and at the bottom. You don't need to lock it, which makes it a lot easier to remove and uninstall and maybe replace your video cards when something is plugged in there. You don't need to adjust that. You don't need to remove your video card whenever you are upgrading RAM or replacing it. And also, there is this Mem Ok button for those who are not in the know. Of course, that has been around for a long time. Actually, it's one of, for some reason, a lot of people do not use that function, but it is very useful for troubleshooting memory problems. If you have a memory and you're concerned that that could be causing a problem in your system and it's not booting, and that should be the first thing you should do, is hit that Mem Ok button, and it will automatically try to adjust it for you so that it boots. It will force it. It will try different configurations, but the most important part is that it is all automatic and it is done for you. And of course, see here, the third part of the protection, five-part protection plan that ASUS has, are, you see that little green thing right there. Those are, of course, fuse ICs that, in case that there's a component damage with the voltage of the RAM, that fuse will be triggered. So that's extra protection. If you look closely, the USB ports also have it. So when you plug in something in a USB port, get shock, it could get damaged. It could damage your main board. It won't get damaged because there are fuses in place. That is a very, very cool idea and unique to ASUS. Also, I see a USB 3.0 port there, directly close to the Z87 chipset underneath this heatsink. And of course, USB 3.0 is now inherent with the Z87 chipset. It is native on it. It supports up to 6 USB 3.0 ports. So 2 of them, it's coming out there in the front panel header. Of course, you have your 24-pin power connector and another channel fan header here, a 4-pin channel fan header. And let's not forget the DiGi Plus VRM button there. Actually, this is the DiGi Plus for the DRAM, I think. And there's also another chipset here that is for the there is a TPU chipset around here somewhere. I've been looking at a lot of ASUS motherboards lately that I forgot where it is positioned in this case. But anyway, it will be there. And also, you have the channel fan header there. And of course, we were talking earlier about the Z87 chipset. I keep on making a mistake in calling it Z86 or Z68. I mean, well, not to be confused with that, because the Z87 chipset provides 6 SATA 6 ports natively, something the Intel should have done a long time ago. And AMD has had it a long time ago, so I don't know why Intel took this long to do it, but it is there natively. But ASUS also provides one extra pair of SATA 6 ports here. These are powered by ASMedia. So ASMedia chip there, and right at the bottom you have the EPU and TPU switch. Of course, you can also trigger these via the UEFI or the AI Suite 3. There's also the clear CMOS jumper there. Haven't seen a jumper in a while. It's an old school way of clearing the CMOS. And here's the TPU chip I was looking for. And here you go. I mentioned the USB 2.0 ports that have fuses protection, and also you have another channel fan here, 4-pin PWM fan, and the front panel connectors where your Q connector will go to, the quick connects. Of course, another original feature by ASUS that has been copied by multiple vendors. And you have a removable BIOS in here for safety, a safety feature. And at the bottom you have the BIOS flashback feature. The old BIOS flashback feature that they introduced had a button in the back of the main board. Now it is here and the side. Of course, for those who don't know what this is, it allows you to update your BIOS without any CPU, without any DRAM, without anything at all except standby power. Now, why is that useful? Well, sometimes you buy a motherboard that is older and there's a new set of processors that are out. Well, unfortunately, you can't update the BIOS sometimes if you don't have the processor to match that. One of our reviewers recently just ran into that problem, and he ended up having to buy an older processor, installing that, updating the BIOS, and then so you can run the new processor. Well, in this case, you will have no such problem in case that ever happens, because BIOS Flashback allows you to update your BIOS without any CPUs installed. All you need, once again, is a standby power. And you have the direct key button here, extremely useful for entering the UEFI without mashing the delete key, especially these days when you have an SSD that boots really, really fast, and with the SSD and Windows 8 combined, you essentially are down to like less than 5 seconds of boot time. And you don't want to end up mashing that delete key, especially if you're someone like me. I have a mechanical keyboard, and it does make a lot of noise, and people complain whenever I'm on the phone and I'm trying to enter the BIOS and I keep on hitting that, and people just tell me, why don't you just hit the direct key? Well, I don't have an ASUS motherboard. I didn't use an ASUS motherboard in that case, but in this case, I have the ASUS motherboard, so I won't be mashing the delete key. I have my direct key right there, and you can also push this even when you're running Windows. It will shut down Windows safely for you. Of course, make sure you're not doing anything like running ScanDisk or anything, or something critical to the system. You're backing up your files. You want to do it when your system is not doing anything. Just hit that. It will shut down for you safely, and by the next time you power on computer, it will enter into the UEFI mode immediately. And you have, of course, a debug LED. You've seen these in other main boards. This is a little bit smaller compared to other debug LEDs, but it is still very much readable. And of course, it's a 2-digit digital readout. Provides you information about troubleshooting. You have to consult the manual for each of the different settings. You can also use, of course, the old school beeping here with the front panel connector. But this is much better and easily seen, especially with so many people having side windows these days. And the power switch, very cool looking power switch here. First time I've seen that design was on their WS board. I had the WS board from P67 and from the Z87 as well. So looking forward to using that without having to connect the front panel connector there. So even if it's in your test bed, you can just press that power button to turn on. You have a Thunderbolt header here. We've seen these before. I've seen it first in the MB99 990FX motherboard 2.0 or 2.0 that ASUS had. Essentially, I think it requires a Pcie X1 device that you plug in and also attach to that header. But I'm not sure if that product is in the market yet, but it most likely will, because Intel and Apple are pushing Thunderbolt into the market. And you have also here a front panel connector for audio and an SPDIF out right above it. And also you get a trusted platform module header for those who want to put in encryption keys or secure a lot of important data. You can attach it to the trusted platform module header there. And of course, it won't be a motherboard review without the PCIe slots here. For those who don't know, of course, coming from the CPU, similar to the Z87, you get 16 lanes of PCIe. But this is PCIe 3.0, which is a lot more bandwidth compared to PCIe 2.0. So if you have one card plugged in here, it will run always at 16x PCIe X 3.0. If you have two cards attached to these PCIe X16 slots, it will run at 8x mode, And if you have a third one here, it will run in X4 mode. So 8X, X4, X4 mode. And some other manufacturer actually put in a PCIe 2.0 slot at the bottom, but I think this is a 3.0. I will put information on the annotation if I'm wrong, but I think they split it as a 3.0 as of X4 X4 when you're running three-way Crossfire X here. Obviously, for those actually not obvious, but for those who don't know, SLI does not run an X4. I made that mistake earlier with my I mentioned the MB99FX 2.0 motherboard from ASUS. I thought that the SLI would run at X4, but actually only Crossfire X runs at X4. In the manual, it will say that it can run quad SLI. They mean two GTX 690s with 4 GPUs and 2 different cards. So that will be the quad SLI support. But other than that, it will be only dual SLI support for non-GTX 690 GTX 590 video cards. And also, of course, you get the Pcie X1 slots here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 in the middle of the top 2 Pcie X16 slot. Of course, that is ideal for dual slot video cards to gather more air, so that the top card does not run hotter than it should be. And also, since ASUS makes triple slot DirectCU2 cards for their high-end line, so it only makes sense to make boards that will support that layout. And of course, we have our last 4-pin fan header here in the rear. So let's do another count here: 1, 2, 3, and that's it. 3 fan headers for the front, the bottom, and the rear, and of course 2 CPU fan headers right at the top there. And now let's move on to the connectors here. Oh, I forgot to mention, I see a chip there. It is a Realtek ALC1150. A lot of mainboards have been putting it, especially the high-end ones, the mainstream to the high-end ones. This is their latest, and sort of a very, very good sound coming from these. Realtek has been doing really well with the solutions now, of course, compared to the ALC892 and the I think it was the 889 that was prevalent during the last Z87 launch. And these are essentially the new hot audio chips now. Realtek ALC1150 codecs, and you have the Nuvoton chip there for the I/O. It also provides the PS2 connectors here at the end. And of course, speaking of audio, you have your audio connectors here at the rear. You have your Intel LAN. I believe this is the new i217V Intel LAN. Very good speed, supposed to be. We'll test it out in our test later on, our benchmarks. And right underneath that is from an Intel. This is, of course, from Intel as well. You have a pair of Intel USB 3.0 ports from the Z87 chipset. So you have 2 in a mid board from the 19-pin header, and 2 more in the rear. So that's 4 from the USB 3.0 in total. And there are more USBs here, but these 2 are actually powered by an ASMedia chip. Right, we can show you there. Look closer, there's an ASMedia chip there. That is my only thing that I does not like about this layout, because most people will be plugging in their keyboard here, especially in this area. But if you have a USB keyboard, I suggest plugging it in here in the Intel port, because that will be detected in the UEFI. So if you don't want to use it directly, you just want to hammer the delete key in the beginning, don't be surprised that it won't boot, it won't go into UEFI if you have it plugged in here, because these are ASMedia chips, and they won't initialize until you enter Windows. At least most of the time it won't. And you have, of course, depending on your operating system, and also you have your audio outputs. Of course, if you're going to run the new HD 4600 GPU that is built into the Haswell processors, you would use the HDMI or the DisplayPort, recommended, since they can support really high displays up to 4096 by 2160 or 4K displays. And also you get the digital audio out, optical out, and for those with older connections, you can use the D-sub or VGA out and the DVI output. And of course, last but not least, you have your ASUS Wi-Fi Go card that is built in. That I showed you earlier, the connector here. You have SMA connectors, very useful. Instead of the high-rose style connector that you just attach, the tiny ones, I still feel more secure using these SMA connectors. And of course, they're gold-plated to ensure that the connection is not compromised. And actually, if you look closely there, gives out what this card actually is. It is an AWNB110H, so that means it is an AW usually means Atheros Wireless-N, and that's usually found in notebooks, but I've heard good things about it, so we'll test it out, especially with that that dual band antenna I showed earlier. For of course, this supports dual band as well. This Wi-Fi Go card supports dual band, and I showed the 2TR2. It's always a mouthful trying to pronounce that. 2TR2 type of antenna, which should be very, very good in this case when combined with that. Well, anyway, that is pretty much it for the layout, and I think am I forgetting one thing? I think I did not mention the fifth of the protections here. Of course, the two protections are the ESD, the green ones, and there's also fuses in here for the displays. So with the DiGi plus VRM, that's one. Fuses for DRAM, it's two. And you have the green fuses, 3 for display, 4. And also the 5K caps. Actually, no, the fuses are 2 or 3. I lost count. Anyway, that's a lot of protections already. The 5K caps for durability, and of course the last one is the backing here. Now you might think, what's different with that? It's just any normal backing. Well, actually this is stainless steel backing. The difference between this one and other mainboard manufacturers is that stainless steel corrodes a lot slower compared to other steel combinations. Some would use a hybrid of steel carbon, or something cheaper and lighter, but stainless steel of course is more expensive in this case produced. But if you are a user that lives maybe near the sea where there's a lot of salt content in the air, or rust is very common, the humidity is good, always raining, rust could easily form in those systems over time, maybe in a year or two. But it could also compromise the connections inside. Once rust takes hold, it could affect those. So in this case, stainless steel prevents all of that from happening, and that's the fifth protection that ASUS provides in this case. And I was surprised, of course, with the price. It is middle mainstream price of $209 for a Z87 board and all of that. And of course we'll test it now. Put in my i7-4770K processor in there, see how well it performs, overclock it, and then you can read the rest of the review at www.hightechlegion.com. And also subscribe for daily updates. You can go to our Facebook channel, facebook.com/hightechreviews or facebook.com/hightechlegion. Either way, both of those are our channels, and twitter.com/hightechlegion. And also join our forums at hightechlegion.com/forum for giveaways that we constantly do. Well, once again, this is Ron signing out. Thanks for watching.